Hey everyone, this is Aaron and Juwan, and you're listening to Wellness for Real People. This show is for people who are on the go, busy, and looking for ways to live their best lives. We focus on wellness topics in mindfulness, exercise, diet, and sleep, and share quick actionable tactics to improve your health and wellness. We're not perfect, but we're trying to get a little better each day. Let's grow on this journey together.
Have you ever sat down on the couch, right, to watch your favorite show or a movie with a bag of popcorn or a bag of chips, and before you know it, the whole bag is gone? I know I've certainly been there. Today we're going to talk about something really, really important and interesting, an article from the Mayo Clinic about mindful eating. So let's get into it. This article actually came out last year, and it was written by Marie Suzinski. Sorry if you're sorry, Marie, if I mess up your name, but I thought this article was really great in terms of talking about the importance of mindful eating and how we can be a little bit more thoughtful about the way that we consume our food. So I'm really excited to get into it. This kicks off season 2 of Wellness for Real People. We took a little bit of break in between season 1 just to reflect, recharge, and we're really excited to be back with you with more engaging content to help you in your life. Content around just mindfulness, exercise, diet, sleep, and healthy relationships. So we're looking forward to growing and learning with you on this next season of the show. And stay tuned. We're gonna have a lot of great content coming your way. So let's dive right into it. I'm here. My name is Juwan with my co-host Aaron Madonna. Welcome back. And let's talk about mindful eating. I know during this break in between seasons, I might have gone a little bit off track, some nights, right? It's so easy to just get distracted when we're eating, and this article points to why we need to be a little bit more thoughtful when we sit down for a meal. So any just overall kind of takeaways, initial thoughts you want to share before we dive into the specifics of the article?
Yeah, I think initially too, it was just setting off the tone. I think you're going to get into this, but really about just starting with mindfulness as kind of like the focal point of the conversation. And mindfulness is a form of meditation that involves focusing on the present. So that's the big point here, is like focusing in the moment, not about what you need to do, not about what happened earlier in the day or previously, but just in the moment and focusing on that. And so I think that's a good anchor point for us to start the conversation. And then trying to adapt that into eating will kind of help us to really assess, like you said, whether we're hungry, whether we're bored, we're stressed, or there's something else that's driving this reaction that we're sensing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point that often, at least in my life, I find myself eating when I'm not even hungry. When I really stop and think about it. And I think, to your point, it comes down to really, when I'm doing that, I'm not being mindful, right? I'm not being really
Yeah.
present and engaged in what I'm doing. And so I have a lot of work to do here because, I think, a lot of us, right, we're just emotional eaters, right? And depending on the mood or the season or the time of day, right, that can really affect, my eating habits. And so it's something I'm working on, trying to be a lot more consistent about, but it's a work in progress. So she offers some really helpful tips that I want to dive into in terms of putting mindful eating into practice. I think the first one she mentioned was really assess your hunger. So she says, before you eat, ask yourself, am I truly hungry, or is there some other reason why I'm just, putting food into my mouth at this exact moment? She says, on a scale from 1 to 10, where, 1 is starving and 3, you're stuffed, aim to eat when you're at a 3. So that's like when you're, somewhat hungry, but not exactly starving. And I think that's really, really important. That's just to have some sort of scale to use to kind of assess things, because sometimes I'll be so wrapped up in work or, in my own thoughts of what's going on during a particular day. I wait until I get to 1, right? And I'm just starving to eat, and then I'm just like, I overdo it. I just go crazy on the on the food because my body is just starving, and I don't probably make sometimes the best choices, or I end up overeating, right? Because I waited too long to eat. So I like this idea of, before you start to eat, assess where you're at, and don't wait to get too far down the scale on the other side, right? Before you make some changes.
Yeah, and I think another big point of that too is what we talked about just like right in the intro is around like seasonality. And I know this is a time where we're getting close to Thanksgiving. If you're listening to this podcast in November, and then also I think we're getting close to like the football, the basketball, the hockey, like the big sports season where like a lot of these primetime sports are going on in the US. And for me, those are trigger moments because often those are associated with wings, beer, burgers, fries, chips, like all the good things that we don't need to be eating. And somehow it just connects to this. When we watch a game, we drink a beer and we eat these things, or we like, or like some people, like maybe you're not into sports, you watch a movie, you eat popcorn and candy and all these other soda and all these other things, right? So it's really like assessing whether that's connected to a moment or season, or like you said, Juan, if you're really truly hungry and really trying to manage that emotional state. Because I do sometimes associate these moments with food. Like, oh man, like, yeah, we're doing this, we need to eat this, or we need to do this. So I thought that was a really big point about thinking about it in terms of mindfulness. It's like disassociating, like, yeah, you could still enjoy your activity without connecting the food to it all the time. And most of the time it's okay, but if you're doing it every day, every week, or multiple times a week, it can get problematic for sure.
Yeah, adds up quickly, for sure. So the next tip was, make time for meals. So she says, if you're eating on the run, you're likely to eat quickly, and not necessarily enjoy your meal. And typically eating on the run, that we tend to do that when we haven't planned well, and ultimately the most convenient things are often not the healthiest food options, right? And so she recommends slowing yourself down by sitting at a table with a plate. I know it sounds really simple and basic, but just that that practice of just like putting your food on a plate and sitting down, could kind of help us maybe just slow down for a moment, especially if you get busy during the day. It's easy to take lunch on the go or work at your computer or at your desk, but right, just take a time to just like stop, eat, be present, and engage with with your mood, with your meal can make a big difference. And and not just how you eat, but also just helping you relieve stress too, right? And calm down a little bit of a change of pace, relax your mind a little bit. So I thought that was an interesting tip.
Yeah, and this is a big one, man. Like you said, making time for meals, because when you think about it, how many healthy drive-throughs can you name off the top of your head? Because I can't name any. So if you're always on the go, always on the run, chances are you're gonna eat something terrible. And like I said, making time for meals, if it's planned, you're gonna have much more success than if you're on the go, because there's just not a lot of healthy options. Maybe in your town, whoever's listening, but not in mine. I can't think of any.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
Like a drive-through healthy place, like I've seen healthy places where you can sit down or take a meal to go, but not drive-through or fast. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. So, kind of related to taking time for your meals, she recommends also just avoid distraction. So turn off the TV, put away your phone, or reading materials, and just remind yourself that you're taking time to focus and enjoy your food. This is something that I really struggle with, and I'm sure my wife will tell you, she's always getting on me about just like, no TV, at the dinner table, right? And really wanting to focus on just being present and engaged with each other at dinner. I'm like, but come on, we got this game on. It's game 6. So it's really, I don't want to miss this. But when I really stop and think about it, like these distractions are really not as important as being engaged and present with family, these precious moments that we have, And so I'm better at it if I'm by myself eating lunch, because I work from home. So if I'm by myself eating lunch, I'm much more likely to, have my phone right next to me, catching up on the news or, social media, or, throw on the TV and see what's going on for a quick second while I'm eating a meal. But I'm really good at being present when I have other people with me, right? A family or friends. And then I can find I don't need that crutch of having something at TV or something in front of me, or reading or something, right? So I want to work on that, as a kind of a big takeaway for me. Just try to avoid distraction and just focus on eating while I'm eating.
Yeah, this one's hard, man. It's very hard to practice, especially when you work from home, or just once you get in the habit of picking up your phone at dinner. Like before, it was like you would eat around a TV when you're with, like, your family and things. But then now you can have your TV anywhere you go. Like, okay, yeah, my family doesn't want to watch the NBA game, but I do, and I can do that at any time. I can just pop it on my phone. But then you're distracted. You're not really focused on the meal and what you're eating and enjoying that, or enjoying the time with your family, and it spirals. I know, like, it's so easy to just like pop that on, even when you're not thinking about it. So I think the big point here for me too is, like, my wife keeps me very accountable of, like, trying to keep the family together in terms of, like, let's go over to this side of the room and let's turn off the TV and eat over here, because it's a lot better. But like when I try to eat on the couch, it just translates into like watching something, or like, oh, let's put on a movie, or let's put on a sports game or something. But yeah, it like kind of like, to me, what I see in my head is like it associates eating with watching TV, and then I get back into my like bad habit moods that I was talking about earlier, where I'm eating like either more or worse things, so I can stay engaged in kind of that moment. So yeah, that one's hard, but something that definitely need to practice.
Yeah, I think it's important, man. We don't want to miss these important moments with the people that matter most.
Yeah.
You only get so many of them, especially if you have little ones, right? And so just being able to take that, unobstructed time just to be present with your little ones, and for at least one meal a day, right? Hopefully more, but if not, at least one meal a day, can make a big difference. And like you said, being intentional about family, intentional about those relationships, with your spouse or significant other, or even with friends, just really trying to, avoid those distractions. I think is really, really powerful. The
Or even
last,
with yourself too. Like, to be
yeah,
honest, sometimes it might just be good to turn off.
yeah, you're right.
Like, like that's like the underlying thing too for me is, like, even when I'm by myself at home, just turn it off and just kind of step away. Because if I look at my phone, probably gonna look at email, start thinking about work, and just get all off track, all stressed out, and not really just enjoy just being in the moment and enjoying the food and the peace of mind and the form of the present that I'm in.
Yeah,
But thinking about what's coming, the next meeting and all that stuff, like, even when you're alone, something I got to work on. But yeah, man, I thought that was a good tip.
yeah, yeah. So the last big tip that I wanted to share from this article is, she recommends choosing modest portions. So she says, take smaller bites and chew slowly. When I get really, really hungry, like I mentioned, when I'm at a 1 or a 2 on the scale, I'm just inhaling the food. I'm not even enjoying it. I'm just throwing it down my, scarfing it down my throat, right? But she recommends, taking your time when you're eating, right? One, to help with digestion, but two, it just helps your body and process the food, right? Because it could take up to 20 minutes sometimes, or longer, for your stomach to talk to your brain and register that you're full. So if you're overeating, if you're eating too fast, you may end up overeating, and getting yourself past. She recommends stop eating when you get to a 6 or 7 on the hunger scale, because there's a little bit of a delay between when you start to feel it now versus when you're when your body really gets into full digestion mode. And so she says 6 or 7 means you're slightly full, you're satisfied, but you're not stuffed, right? And so I think that's another great tip, just to have a visual kind of reminder of, like, okay, don't start at 1 when you're totally full, totally empty, and then eat your way all the way to 10, because then you're going to have the itis, right? And then want to take a nap and not be lethargic and overload your body, right? So just try to stay in that 3 to 6 or 7 range, right, when you're eating. And I think if I can just remember to do that consistently, I think it'll make a big difference, just being much more mindful of just staying in that healthy zone. So any last thoughts there?
Yeah, no, man, it's like the old saying. I'm probably gonna butcher it, but it's like, when your eyes are bigger than your stomach and you like see all this delicious food and you start piling on your plate and you're like, oh man, like, oh, this is exciting, this is great. And then you get into it. If you're starving, you're probably gonna finish that plate. And if you're not starving, then you might not eat all of it. And that's really what it comes back to, assessing your hunger level and trying to make sure that you're managing it before you get to that level where you're starving, and you're probably less likely to overeat. Or if not, still choosing modest portions and just really trying to be diligent and disciplined of what you're putting on your plate, and just knowing that if I'm filling this thing up where stuff is spilling over, or the pile is too high over here, or I got an imbalance and I'm like, man, I loaded up on the rice and all this other stuff, you probably know you're not in the right place. So really thinking about modest portions and then balancing that plate out before you even start eating. Um, Something that I've been thinking about a lot. And then, like, we talked about this in a previous episode last season about adding like one thing green to your plate. More green stuff you add fills up that plate. So you kind of like knock out the space. So you can't add all the rice and bread and all the other stuff, like, oh man, I filled up on veggies and this thing. I only have this little space for like adding some like carbs and some protein. Protein's great. You can add more of that. But the rice, like keep that in the smaller chunks. So modest portions is big. And then, yeah, I think it's just about planning, man. And when we get in the moment, trying to resist, it's hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard, but it'll help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The planning, let us say proper planning prevents poor performance, right?
Yeah.
That's a big takeaway from this, in terms of planning your meal times, and then actually sitting down at the table with a plate at your meal times, and then actually being mindful of what you put on the plate, like you said, the proper balance of things, and then being able to just take a breather and slow down and just focus on what you're eating. You could just kind of slowly kind of work your way through those things. I think will be a lot more successful, with mindful eating, and everything that goes along with that, in terms of, it's about fueling our body, right, to accomplish
Yeah.
things that we want to accomplish and ultimately be at our best. So that was a really great article. Again, we'll link to the article in the show notes, if you want to read the full article. And this is going to wrap this episode up, but we'll be back. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week with even more content to help you feel better, live longer, and enjoy this journey called life. So see you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.